I'm Ariana.
And my name's Ryan.
And this is
I Wear Grippy Socks.
She wears no strings, I wear grippy socks. She's in the psych ward, I'm in the detox.
A mental health podcast by two know-nothing millennials from a seriously non-clinical viewpoint.
This episode may contain graphic content, so please be advised.
And remember,
thank you for being here.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of I Wear Grippy Socks. We have a very, very special guest today. The real Wolf of Walgreens, the Shroopacabra, a boy named Shrew, Sand Shrew, or as some people call him, Andrew, my older brother. How are you doing today, Shrew?
I'm doing all right. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, appreciate it.
It's good. We're glad to have you. I know we wanted to make this happen, so it's exciting. It kind of, once again, also like sad terms that we're all here, but you know what? It's also great times, right?
Yeah, it is what it is. It could be better circumstances, but here we are. We'll make the best of it.
Exactly. Because I'm excited to hear all your tea. No, I'm joking.
That's right.
No, we're going to...
Lots of tea.
Exactly. You know, and I think we always like to say, you know, with mental health, it can go any way. I think there's a lot that we're going to be able to talk about today. So
Hopefully.
We'll see.
But yeah, so you're doing well though?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good today, yeah.
No complaints?
No, not really. No more than usual.
Not a single complaint.
You know how it is.
That's
chill.
Yeah.
I feel like I always got the same vibes from you and your dad have a lot of same like chill vibes. So if anyone listened to that episode prior, I feel like you guys might have a lot of the same.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You're gonna get the version 2 of that podcast here.
You think so?
Probably, yeah. Updated for the times, but very, very similar.
Yeah, I could see it. I feel like you and Dad are pretty... It seems like you're doing things very similarly.
It actually astounded me how similar we are listening to his podcast, because the men in our family have, I would describe as possibly even lackluster emotional connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, he mentioned something about when you asked him about his dad, about how he was the best man he ever knew and he wanted to be just like his dad. And I feel more or less pretty much the exact same way about our dad.
Aww.
And
yeah, he's a pretty solid dude, I would say.
You know, he set the template, man.
Yeah.
You know, and it didn't work out for me the same way it worked out for him, and you know, it is what it is. But
I think that's also important. Like, I feel like also our parents also really like have an expectation how we're going to turn out, and vice versa, you know. And I think we also look at our parents in a certain highlight, and we also, I don't know, the way we emulate those things. Also, we love our parents at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah.
Becoming a dad was really a profound experience, and you know, I didn't, as a kid growing up, I wasn't really capable of understanding a lot of the things that he did or said or felt until I had kids of my own. And now it makes a lot more sense to me. When I was a kid, I wanted to be just like Dad. And then when I became a father, I looked at my kids and I was like, I don't want them to be like me. You know, I want them to be better than me. And that was something I didn't understand until I had kids of my own. You know, I thought wanting to be Dad was the best thing I could ever do, when, you know, maybe I could have been better. Of course, better is subjective, obviously.
That's true. I still find it very weird that you even have kids.
It's interesting.
I forget
Yeah.
all the time. I forget mom and dad are grandparents now.
Yeah,
that's a whole different vibe. That's weird.
Yeah, shout out Gigi and Papa.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Right. How old is your oldest?
He's almost 4 now. He wakes up and talks for 12 hours, then goes to sleep. It's exciting and exhausting, and all the things that everyone says about parenthood. It's better than you can ever imagine, honestly.
Your knowledge even on mental health and how you stand, I don't know really where you are and what you believe in that, but is there something that you feel like you want to incorporate more though into your fatherhood, or how would you feel like something that was more you want to do for sure, that, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think when we were growing up, you know, mental health wasn't really a focus in our family, because, you know, why would it be?
Most Americans.
You know, so I think that as a parent myself, I would like to place a little more emphasis on that. And, having gone through a lot of the things that I've gone through, I think I'm in a pretty good position to be able to help out with that if that situation ever comes up where they're struggling. But growing up, we didn't really have, not that we couldn't go to them for things, but I think it was maybe they didn't really totally understand what was going on.
Yeah. Hard.
Yeah, I don't want my kids to ever have the impression that I expect them to be a certain way or to do a certain thing other than just, being good people. And, mom and dad never put any kind of pressure or expectations on us to do anything in particular other than to, do our best. And I followed the Mark G path to success step for step perfectly.
You gonna go back to school then?
Maybe.
You got like
See, that's the next
5
step.
more years.
That's the next step. See, I kind of diverted a little bit there with so I, graduate high school, cool. Go to college, check. Flunk out of college, check.
Mm-hmm.
Meet the girl, check. Get married, check. Get the kids, check. I did all that, and then the marriage falls apart, and the job falls apart, and so where do you go from there? That wasn't part of his plan, so. So yeah, we'll see. No, but yeah, when knowing he flunked out made it okay for me to flunk out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important to like keep in perspective that some of us are late bloomers.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and
things turned out pretty well for.
College was never going to work out for me at the time, and I knew it wasn't before I even went. But I was like, well, that's what people do. You graduate high school, you go to college.
Well, yeah, I think that's in my freshman year, they always talk if you make it back after freshman year, you got a pretty decent chance of making it. Not always, not always.
That seems reasonable.
But a good chunk is because it's the big responsibility shift that comes after, like, I feel like that's a lot. You got to be able to go to school. You're not having your parents like, did you go? Are you eating right? Are you doing all these things that allow you to be an adult?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still not an adult, but.
I blame public education for that, honestly.
College is a joke.
As a quote unquote gifted student, public education was not too terribly difficult for me, and
right.
The same for Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's easy enough to where I can pass and not try, and not even just pass but excel without even trying,
right.
Why am I going to try? Why am I going to try?
Yeah.
So I never learned how to try. Never learned discipline. Never learned
100%.
Never learned effort.
Yeah.
It literally bugs the shit out of me when I hear you guys say that, because it's like so opposite for me. I tried so hard, and I understand you guys. It's like my sister. I have the prime example. She can literally do things without having to try at all, and I'm like, I'm over here, like 5 laps in, fucking dead, and you guys are like, I've been done for 5 hours. Like, literally, that is the epitome of my life.
I was always the first one done in the test.
It certainly didn't set me up for success later.
I could see that now.
When it got to a point where I had to try, I didn't know what to do.
How to try.
But then, I mean, for me, some shit, it's like, why?
Right.
Why am I? Why would I try to do this? Why would I try to learn this? This is stupid.
That's absolutely true.
This is not enhancing my life in any way, shape, or form.
There's no fucking reason. That I needed to know algebra.
Right? There's literally no reason.
Like I could figure that out if I needed to.
It's
like I didn't need to spend all day doing this.
I think that's where, though, also, like you were saying, that the public school system does fail as a whole. There's a lot of, I think that's even could be a whole episode even alone on that for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also, I always have found it not strange or different, just different. A big thing when you guys were younger, though, like he always says that you guys really didn't ever had people over either, though. I know that's a little bit of a switch, but like I think that also has a big impact on, if you're how wild or not, you know what I mean? Like, if you feel comfortable coming over somewhere. Personally, I don't know. I guess I sort of understand some of your parents' rational thinking somewhat.
As a parent now, I can understand it a lot better. Like, I'm not trying to clean the fucking house so that you kids can run around and destroy it. I'm not interested in doing that. Mm-hmm. And it's possible that when they're older, I'll feel like doing that for them. Maybe
there's probably like a happy medium.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Yeah, but yeah, we never had friends over.
I think talking about things. I think that's. Having that ability to see what your friends are doing. I don't know. I was raised obviously such in an opposite way of you guys. Such a totally different kind of way. I mean, really night and day. But
I mean, for me, it was like, well, if I can't have friends here, then I just won't hang out here.
Right.
You know, like I will just go
And
and do whatever I need to do elsewhere.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I
I think
can't
that.
get super faded here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and that was a little less important when we were younger kids.
Oh, right.
I would have liked to have had friends over, but
it is.
yeah, it is what it is. We'd go over there, and then when you're older, you're going to hang out with your friends, and you can do whatever you want if they're not around without any supervision, which can
be not so great.
can end up not great. Yeah.
See, I think when we were like kids, I feel like we all got along fairly well, you know?
I'd imagine as well as any brothers could.
Right.
I know.
I feel like things were
remember.
pretty smooth
I remember
sailing.
some epic smackdowns, but
There were a few.
that's that's par for the course
Yeah.
for three brothers.
Right? I mean, for the most part, I feel, when I look back, I feel like things were pretty good.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, I don't have...
I got no
You know?
complaints for sure, and that's one thing that bothers me about my mental health or
Right.
lack of mental health. Sometimes is like there's not anything I can point to that says, okay, this is why you are the way that you are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like a repressed trauma
Yeah.
or anything to point to like, okay, this is why you're depressed. It's just I don't know why.
Yeah, it's more frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, it's not something that there's not a singular event that caused
Right.
this, and that makes it more difficult to untangle the web and figure out why.
So do you mind it? Are me asking if you're in counseling? Have you done therapy before?
I have done therapy before. I am not currently in therapy, but
No.
about 10 years ago I was seeing a therapist and I was on antidepressants, and it helped, and it helped enough to where I felt like I didn't need it anymore, so I quit taking the antidepressants, and things were fine when I didn't have anything that I was going through. I could maintain on like a day to day if there was no like major stress. If the seas were calm, I didn't have a problem. But when the storm came, that's when you realize like, okay, maybe I don't have as good a grip on this as I thought I did,
Yeah.
and that can be
Overwhelming.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely have been there and feel that for sure. At least I have. I know it's hard sometimes to cope with like what we really are feeling, and I think the big thing personally, once again, and the point of the whole podcast is the not talking with people, not being able to talk to your parents, not being able to talk to friends even sometimes openly. I think there's that big stigma once again with the men in your friendships and not being able to express how things are. And I think that's crazy. And I know, sort of to jump a little bit back, even with your parents and the tidiness, like I know that I don't know if you've changed now. I feel like maybe a dad might have been a little bit different, but I've heard the horror stories of the mess of the houses and the tight. That's also just alone is very like can be mental, have such a big mental thing when your place is not clean.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a cycle. You don't feel like you deserve to have nice things or to be in an environment that is nice, so you
Yeah.
don't do anything about it, and then that
Dude.
triggers your depression, and then you're
The Bachelor Pad was so just absolutely just disgusting
it was
at times.
it was not great. I try not to think about it.
So
but,
would you say that that's when you were mentally at your lowest?
no, actually, that was
Yeah, honestly, me neither. Really.
looking back.
Probably.
I don't know what this says about my life, but that was some of the happiest I've ever been. Actually,
we were actually. I mean, we were chilling.
I had a really good time. I had a job that was easy, and I made enough to pay
The
part of our
Wolf.
cheap rent.
I didn't even
the-
pay rent.
The Wolf of Walgreens.
Damn.
What? I was doing drugs. I mean, there was a lot of narcotics being consumed in that house.
There
okay?
was a lot of financial finagling going on to
Yeah.
to make bills on time. But
Yeah. I don't know how much money Shrew ended up forking out because several members of us had fallen into a pretty intense fent addiction. And Shrew seemed to escape except for when we would bug him for money, which was
Nonstop.
all the time, really.
yeah, I ended up having some money, more money than anyone else, just specifically because I didn't have that kind of expense I needed to pay for. But
Feeling like a millionaire on minimum wage.
legitimately, the only reason I didn't end up in the same boat was because I knew that if I ever tried something like that, I would be totally fucked.
Yeah.
I knew immediately that that was not something I would be able to
So
handle.
you didn't even try it one time
I get no,
when it was coming through the crib?
no.
Damn.
That's
No,
crazy.
I refused to touch it
Damn.
because I knew
Honestly,
like I'd known for really since I started doing anything that I had an addictive personality,
Right.
and like we got a like a Native American reservation with a casino near where we live. So we went up first time we went up to the casino, and I won like $200 on a slot machine. I was like, oh fuck yeah! And I was like, I could definitely see how this could ruin my life. How I
Right.
could get addicted to this. And then the first time I did coke, I was like, yeah, this is something that could definitely ruin my life. And I was like, if I touch opiates, I'm gonna fucking ruin my life.
Yeah.
So I refused to do it.
So you just smoked a lot of weed?
I smoked a lot of weed, yes. I did every other thing, I guess, is the best way to say that. Yeah. I didn't really discriminate too much other than the opiates.
Yeah.
That shit was I don't know. It was hard because you don't even really know how bad things are, really.
Right, yeah. It doesn't seem like it's that bad, but
So you guys didn't feel like there was any red flags during that time, or maybe near the end of it, I guess?
I mean,
It was probably all a red flag.
there were definitely red flags. It was not a good situation to be in, but it didn't seem as bad as it was
Yeah.
at the time.
Once again, we don't want to see the things that are sometimes right in front of us.
Right.
I mean, things got pretty crazy. I mean, obviously Andrew I think we were at the Bachelor Pad when Jordan passed.
I had moved out
Had you moved out at that point?
a few months before.
Thanks a
I
lot.
think a few months before. Yeah, it's interesting.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, legitimately, I think back sometimes, and I feel like I might have been the only thing keeping things on the rails.
Things got a little sideways there for a little bit, and I can't remember who all was there, but yeah.
I think it definitely went downhill when I left.
I could see that, yeah. You were probably the voice of reason because there was no voice.
Yeah, I was
all enabling each other 100%. Except you were not.
Well,
maybe you were enabling, but you weren't at least using drugs, so.
I was definitely enabling.
Yeah.
But,
It's a tough thing to handle. I feel like
it's a difficult situation to be in,
Because even with my buddies, it's like, oh man, I'm so sick, blah blah. Can you give me a ride here? It's like, and that it's like, obviously that you shouldn't. I mean, it's not like helping, but it's like you can't. You want to just see the best in people, and you just give them the benefit of the doubt, even though.
It's not. Standing up and saying something is one of the hardest things to do for even a family member, or seeing something that is not, as a whole, if it's not okay. And I think, I don't know, it's interesting that I also think that the older, like my sister as well, I know even less than you, but are more, I don't know if that's an older sibling thing, but didn't really go as such a path, I guess, or into more hardcore drug use. But when did you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the older sibling thing is interesting because I think, for me, I feel, and maybe I'm too into Game of Thrones, but the firstborn son, there's an expectation that they're gonna be,
King of the castle.
King of the castle. Yeah, exactly. And no one ever pressured me, like mom or dad. No one ever put any kind of implication that was what they wanted from me. But for some reason, I think as long as I can remember, that's how I lived my life. Just with dad as an example. Again, just be as much like him as I could.
I find it super interesting to think about, just the order that we were born. When I think about you and Kevin, because I'm 2 years apart, right, obviously from both you guys, but then you guys are 4 years apart. I'm I wonder what, I just wonder what that's like. I wonder if it, I think it's interesting to think about. It's
super interesting, and I think I've definitely got more of a big brother, little brother relationship with him as compared to you. I feel like you and I are more almost peers.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with how cool you were in high school.
I view you and Kevin both as like peers. I think.
Yeah, and it's definitely developed more into that as we've gotten older. But
especially because now Kevin is, he's killing it.
He's the biggest of all of us.
It's crazy.
And the most
just slaying it and
Put together?
Yeah. What's the term I want? The most conventionally successful of us.
Bastard.
I know, right? Successful marriage, well-paying job, just living his best life.
And he's the baby.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's so like bittersweet, right? You're like,
It
damn.
is.
No, it's great. I'm happy for him. He's doing great. And not that we aren't.
Right.
Great in
Right.
different ways.
I think it's interesting too. I mean, like somebody asked me the other day. They were like, "Do you talk to your brothers every day?" I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I was like, "Maybe every like few months," but I mean, I don't necessarily feel like, anything needs to be said. I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mentioned earlier. I think that the men in our family have what could be construed as lacking emotional connections.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true. There's a bond between us that is very unbreakable.
Yeah.
And any of us would do anything for any of the others if we needed to. But
Except tell them they love them.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah,
I'll take a bullet for you, but
yeah,
I will not.
I'm not saying that would be-
I'm not going to show any affection. If
That's
I do
that's
it.
that's one difference that I really noticeably want to have between myself and Dad as fathers is I don't, as a kid, and I'm certain that he said it, but I don't remember him saying that he loved me or that he loved us.
Yeah.
And but I've never once doubted that he did.
For sure.
More than anything.
Yeah.
But I don't remember him saying it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it wasn't until his father's funeral when maybe it sank in that maybe like he needed to say that a little bit more.
Because I want to say I asked him, and I don't think that Papa ever told him he loved him.
I absolutely believe that.
I mean, I don't want to, I don't know that for sure, but
I absolutely believe that.
I do too.
Papa was certainly the type
He's
to not say that.
He showed you in other ways for sure.
Yeah,
but definitely
absolutely.
not like. I mean, that's like I would, because we had Mom on the one day, and like I didn't tell her I loved her for a long time.
Right.
I was like, well, I mean, it's not like it's unheard of for people in our family not to say I love you. I mean,
yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah,
But
that's weird.
We've always had an interesting relationship. I don't know actually that we've ever been friends, if that makes sense.
like me and you.
Like me and you.
Yeah.
And like Kevin also. Like I don't know that we were ever like friends.
It was.
Does that make sense?
It was an interesting dynamic.
It's changed for sure.
Yeah.
In the last like 7 years or so.
Yeah.
But like growing up and like especially in high school.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I
remember riding to school. We didn't say anything.
Right, yeah. And
We had beef. I would always be pissed because you'd make us late, and I would get detention, and it didn't matter if you were late.
I'm so sorry, but all drama between all the females in your lives also blows my mind. No
Hey,
offense.
it's a small town.
Are we going there?
I'm just
They're slim
saying. I'm just saying. I might be a
They're
little
slim
pissed at
pickings.
my sibling too if she was over there taking a little piece of my old piece.
It happens, man.
It did. It was things got a little sideways. Things were getting a little very savage.
See,
there.
we tended to piss off the girls that we were involved with, and when we were pissed off, when they were pissed off, the best way to piss us off was to go to the other one.
It worked very well.
It worked very well, efficiently,
It's
It did.
and we worked out some fair trades, I think. But
Yeah.
Fair trades. I am so dead.
that's messed up. No.
I'm dead. I'm so
We respect women.
That's
Yes,
right. I mean,
you
what were we doing?
You've learned.
I mean, it wasn't us.
Yeah, no,
They're
that's
coming-
that's
you
that's,
know, if
that's
they're
their
coming at
decision.
me,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I would.
It works both ways.
I'm weak. We've
It
gone
works
Yeah.
through
both
this,
ways.
You know.
It takes a better man than me to reject some kind of the advances that.
Yeah.
And
have
you're
been put
talking
on.
high school level,
Right.
which
Right.
is
I mean,
our
yeah.
It
the
is what it
brains
is.
are a bit small.
I mean, for
especially.
sure. I would say, yeah. I mean, high school. I mean, yeah, definitely not friends.
No.
I would say even mortal enemies.
there was
mortal
definitely-
enemies.
I wouldn't take it that far, but there was
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah, that's intense.
definitely a not so friendly rivalry occasionally.
Yeah.
And this a lot of that extended because of the groups of friends that we have.
Yeah.
My
it was-
friends
Yeah,
my friends fucking hated you and Jordan.
yeah.
And you and Jordan fucking hated my friends.
Yeah.
And so, it is
But I
know.
think
It
though
is what it
that
is.
does also go into not being able to all hang out, maybe together, forced together. Like also, if you guys would maybe have been able to go to each other's, all been in the same like
Well, eventually-
living
well,
room together, maybe
Well,
that could also benefit that.
because we would frequent the same parties.
Right,
It was
yeah.
more like his group and like my group were like beefing for like we were trying to be the cool.
Something.
Yeah,
it was definitely like
they played soccer. We did not play soccer.
it was definitely like an alpha competition for
Yeah.
sure. There's
Pissing contest.
there's
of
a finite number of attractive girls in Western North Carolina,
there is.
and we wanted all of them to ourselves.
Them's is mine.
Naturally.
And so that's what it came
Wow.
down to. I think specifically was a
Yeah,
competition for female attention and for just attention in general.
for sure.
Popularity contest.
Which I also find, I wonder, I know we can play this what if game, but I always, if you guys would have ended up with even a sister and how different things might have been differently. Because I feel like your mom also never talked anything really feminine. I think we've talked in the past, it's not like you knew anything really about periods and like a woman and the things that happen with that.
No, that women don't use the bathroom.
Honestly, I was very, very old when I finally figured out that they do. I was very upset. I swear.
Women do not go number 2.
I found out. Yeah, I mean, I've been
They
finding out all
don't.
kinds of things. There's like another pee hole.
Yeah.
There's like an extra hole for pee.
Yeah, I cannot.
That's-
I can't. He
that's
doesn't
weird.
know.
That's made up.
That's what I'm saying.
But this is why that's also so important. I think when you also talk about like the endeavors and your high school endeavors and stuff, like the respect of females, is important, obviously. But also you were never like introduced that, and that's a fail on. I feel like that's something that the public school, once again, also tying back, should also talk more about. But I'm obviously also come from a family that talks about sex all the time, so a completely different. Where you guys didn't even talk about sex. Did you remember having to talk about sex with your parents? I know he said I don't think he did.
Yes, I remember it very well. Dad said, "Hey, we're gonna go for a drive," and I said, "All right." So we went for a drive, and he asked me if I had any questions, and I said, "Nah."
Yeah, I mean, I was
And
like,
he was like, "All right, cool."
yeah, I feel like I was
Good
like,
talk, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah,
I was like, it seemed like the cat was out of the bag at that point.
Yeah, and honestly, like I didn't really know. I knew the basics.
Right. That's all you need to know.
Right. Yeah, but I didn't
Right.
know anything that was
Right.
Do you
Not
feel
anything
like
actually
useful.
important. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's something different that you're gonna do with your son? When do you feel like the appropriate time to talk about that stuff is?
Oh man, I don't know. There's no telling. It's a different day and age now.
Dude,
where
things are, yeah,
things were different when I was a teenager than they were when Dad was a teenager,
for sure.
and things will be different when my kids are teenagers. So I don't really know that there's a right answer to that. I would guess somewhere in the early teens. I was 15 when I lost my virginity, so I would guess it wouldn't be surprising if my sons beat that record. But
Yeah.
record.
Record is supposed to be a record when someone's with each other because they want to and they want to make that next step.
That's certainly not a record.
No.
Yeah, no, it was. I had a girlfriend, and we were very much in love
There you go.
That's good.
for a couple of 15-year-olds. So.
There you go.
Well, I think that has a big effect, though. Really, I think that has a partial effect on some personal and how you also will view the first experience you have around sexual experiences has a big impact. I think not 100%, but has the notions to it. Even in the future, like the way you interact with women will set a standard, or your partner, whoever it may be. And I think that it's important that we do discuss more sexual things, even in your small town like Etowah. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely important, and fortunately, I've got time to figure out how I want to handle that. But
yeah,
I don't know
how
really any idea how I plan to approach that.
it's tough.
I'm just gonna put it off until I can't put it off anymore, and then I'll
Right.
figure it out then.
Right.
I know they might be asking why Ryan's a movie star.
Right.
You don't know.
I'll be in real movies by then. Thank you very much.
A little
Hey,
action.
don't Google your uncle, kids.
Right.
Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't check the spicy account.
Don't do it, for sure.
Do you feel like, though, your small town also had maybe then a big more contribution to some of maybe the lifestyle that you live then and now?
I think that's definitely possible. You know, there's not a whole lot to do, if we're being honest.
You got to be cool with that. I mean, at times
really,
it is nice, you know, to not do anything, but at other times it is like difficult.
Right, yeah. You know, when you're 18, 19, 20, it's not phenomenal because you're trying to do things, go out, have fun, do things like that, and there's just nothing to do.
House parties only.
It's wild. I've been both types of people. I put it on a spectrum. You've got like your Morgan Wallen, I'm never going to leave my hometown, where it's like, yeah, I'm super stoked that I get to live in this small town forever and I'm going to live and die here and it's going to be great. And then you got the Fallout Boy, I'm never going to leave my hometown, and it's like, dude, I fucking hate this shit. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So most people are one or the other, but I oscillate back and forth between the two depending on any given day.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Sometimes I'm like, man, what else is out there? But then there's like on the other side, it's like, yeah, this is what Dad did, this is what his dad did, and his dad did, and you know, it was good enough for them. And I don't hate it most of the time. Sometimes you wonder what else there was or what else there is. I guess it's never too late.
Yeah,
but
you're still young.
And
It's been weird. I mean, because I never thought I would move. I mean, I really didn't. I was like, I don't necessarily have a need to.
right,
But now that I have, I mean, there are pros and cons, obviously.
right,
I think for me, it just was good to like get away because people just expect. I mean, when you've been the same way for so long, people just expect you to, you know, it's almost like you have to like uphold this, you know,
right,
reputation almost.
Right.
It's like, you know, if people have been hitting you up for drugs for fucking years, you know, people are gonna keep doing that.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's the same cycle, and really, I mean, most people from our town either went to college or moved away.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the people, you know, our age had moved, and the ones that hadn't were wilding.
Yeah, the people, most of the people who stay, how do I put this nicely, aren't really the people you want to be around. If we're being totally honest, you know, they're not.
Shout out mom and dad. Shout out Casey. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and I think there is a little different. The hometown, it's a big thing. The big thing especially is where you are raised.
Right.
You know, you could live in the city, but I think there's also, not always, I think there's more things to do obviously in the city, but you have the pressures of also what, like you were saying, even what that of the people that are still there and that are around you. You know what I mean? I know like this town, it's not the biggest town either. We're not that big. I think he did the numbers one time, and it's
Twice as big as Etowah.
yeah, I think Palmetto specifically.
yeah.
But
Right.
but it's, you know, okay, we live in a bigger town, but there's still like, I think all the
Still a
time,
very
like what
small
I would
town.
love to maybe move. I would want to move away. I would want to
Yeah.
get away. Maybe I don't want to settle here because also I hate going to the grocery store and being like,
Right.
oh my god, I'm going to see someone from high school. Like no. Like that is also mortifying to me personally, somewhat.
I feel like it's like easier to recreate yourself, kind of.
Yeah, you can be anyone you want if you go somewhere else.
Rebrand yourself.
Right.
Yeah, you can't.
They know your past.
Yeah, and they'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I think that's the hardest part too, though, in life, is like realizing, like, I feel like also something even with Ryan, and I know it's been an interesting 2 years since he's moved down here, and there's been the highs and the lows, whatever.
Yeah.
But never really seeing a full blown, the like extreme negative. I would say from what he's described to me, he has not gotten to that point whatsoever in the last 2 years. Like him in his darkest days, essentially. I'm not saying there has not been dark days, but not as dark as they were. And so I don't know that I sometimes can't connect the same way. You know, even with you, I don't know you know what I mean? We'd be essentially, if you move down here, it would be, like you said, you know, making a friendship. And that's something new because I don't have that. Okay, we're blood related, but there's not that, like,
right, yeah, there's
know-how.
no preconceived notions about us.
I think it's been interesting also to see you also go through a divorce at such a younger age, and the relationship, the dynamic that you have been going through currently or had been in. But it's not something wild though in this like day and age that what's happened.
Can you tell us a little bit about your situation?
Yeah, anytime you get married, you're never really thinking like, oh man, this is not gonna end well.
Right.
You
always do it.
You always go into it, thinking that you're gonna be successful, and
right.
Statistics show that that's not necessarily the case. But sometimes people just don't work out.
Yeah.
And it's no one's fault. Really,
it's her fault.
It's her fault and my fault. I couldn't be the person she needed me to be, and she couldn't be the person I needed her to be. And that's not through either of our faults. That's just not compatible. And it needs to be okay for that to be okay.
Yeah.
Not every breakup has to be toxic. Not every divorce has to be toxic.
Right. I would say oftentimes it's probably less toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if neither parent is happy and they're just staying
together
for the children,
absolutely.
Is that an environment that is conducive to growing?
That never works out. Yeah, you're absolutely better off raising your kids in two separate happy homes than one unhappy home.
Yeah, I think that but it's also finding that next connection. I think another intimidating factor is also the next step. So obviously my parents, they divorced when I was 2. And my stepmom came into the picture, relatively, within months of that
happens.
Divorce.
Yeah.
And
I've seen that done.
But that is also hard, who you bring into that next dynamic. I think you absolutely are correct. And once again, I'm not married or have children, but understanding that things can go south, and then also being accepting of that person's partner, and that it needs to also be valid. I know you can't always control that, but it, I think, goes into leaving the relationship in a toxic way. If you can leave it in a positive way. My mom, I would say specifically, took a lot of the leader, I would say, in the way she handled things. Was she always put the kids first. It was us first. It was always us first. And she was going to make it work, even when she probably maybe got at the shittier end of the stick.
Yeah, I think that's really, really commendable as a parent, to be able to put aside your selfish desires or your pride, or put aside whatever that you have to put aside to do what's best for your kids. And that's what I've done, and that's what my ex-wife has done. We have a really, really phenomenal co-parenting relationship, and both of us agreed that what we needed to do was what was best for the kids.
Yeah. And
it's commendable that when people can do that, I think. And it really, really deeply upsets me when people refuse to do that.
Yeah, it's only going to hurt the kids in the long run. Essentially, you're going to just do more toxic damage to even themselves, and it's real negative. And my dad, one thing I will give him, he's right. He says it is very important also who you decide to have children with. I think that is a big.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
It's not always in your cards or whatever it may be, but I think there is. It has an effect, and I personally, I know my relationship is not perfect whatsoever, but I know for a fact, like, if I would get pregnant today by my boyfriend, if there was a doubt we would get divorced, I know he'd still be there and be a good dad, and I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't imagine having a better mom for my kids than my ex-wife. Even though our relationship didn't work out how I had hoped it would work out, but there's no regrets as far as having kids with her. She's a phenomenal mom, and I couldn't imagine having a better mom for the boys.
Yeah, I know you 2 active parents, because a lot of nowadays that doesn't happen. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's a big reason why. Well, I was gonna say why I haven't had kids yet, but I would say modern medicine is probably a good reason I haven't had any yet. But because even if our parents were, I just was like, maybe I shouldn't say mom and dad. I don't want to name drop them. So I was like, I'll just say our parents. But I'm like, even if they, whatever troubles they have or had, looking back, it just seems very picturesque. It really does. I don't remember them
arguing.
Really not that much. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe you need a little bit of.
If it was as good as it seemed, or if they were just good at hiding it.
Yeah.
Everyone's got problems. All relationships
Yeah.
have problems, but the key to that is to be willing to work through that. And if you do that, you can be successful for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird thing. I didn't even picture them as people until like a year ago. In my head, they were mom and dad,
Right.
and they existed to be my parents.
Right.
And that was it. It never occurred to me that they might have hopes and dreams and wants and needs other than me,
Yeah.
or other than us. So it's interesting as I get older and as a parent myself now, I know I've got wants and needs and
Yeah.
to some extent hopes and dreams.
Yeah. I think it's weird too because like I don't know. I mean, obviously growing up, it's like they're like almost a collective unit.
Right? Yeah.
And
They
it's
yeah
like,
they,
they have like their own thoughts.
they
their
they
own
weren't they
opinions.
weren't individuals, and they weren't people.
Right.
They were mom and dad.
Right.
They were our parents.
You forget it's like
And-
two people in a relationship.
Right,
you
yeah,
know?
no,
You're like,
that-
what?
I think there's a lot we don't see the sacrifices that go into
Yeah.
parenting,
Yeah, that's for sure.
and that
I
and
do, and
the
that's why I
hard.
won't have kids.
But now
That
as
sounds
you're
like
older,
shit.
I think that
you
that's
gotta
the
work
biggest thing.
so hard. You gotta like try to make sure your kid's not a piece of shit, and then they're gonna be a piece of shit anyway. I mean, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but still.
But I think that's why it's just like leaving a good like open like connection, and like
Yeah.
this will be like you said, once again like saying that they're valid, whatever they want to do in life is valid, be a upstanding person, and hopefully hope for the best.
Right, yeah, you can take what they did that worked for you and do that, and take what didn't work, or
Yeah.
figure out where they were lacking, and you can add that in. And the goal for humanity, I think, is to get a little bit better every generation. And
Yeah.
that seems to be. Am still just now getting to the point where sometimes I feel like I'm an adult. And when I found out that I was going to be a dad, it was exciting, first of all, but it was also very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Seems like it'd be super
And
nerve wracking.
that's the key to life, really. Is when you're a kid, you feel like adults are going around and they've got all this shit figured out, and then you become an adult yourself, quote unquote, and you realize that no one has any fucking idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're just doing the best they can,
I know.
and so that's all we can do. Is just do the best we can.
I know. And I think that's why, though, I know we had said it before, but for me, and figuring out what life is and understanding what my parents wanted for me, and like trying to like make it sound sweet and great, but also have like a sense of reality. I think that's the hardest things that parents do or cannot do or are doing, or like we can't, like you said, we can't always be like, this place is shit hole.
Right?
you know?
Yeah. It's a difficult balance. You can't tell your 4-year-old that the world is totally fucked, but at the same time, if you don't do that, and in 20 years they're gonna come to you and say, "Hey man, why the fuck didn't you tell me?"
You didn't tell me these things. Yeah.
So you gotta find a balance, I guess. Tell them they can be successful if they try hard.
Right.
I know.
But everyone's idea of success is different.
I think that's like an important.
My goal now is just to be the best father I can be and be the best person I can be. And if I can do that, then I will consider myself successful.
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to make 10 G's a month on OnlyFans.
Everyone's idea of success is different.
And I think that
Just kidding.
is the important thing, though. Like that level of what you want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you're talking about moving back or not. Like, what level of happiness are you at? As I've gotten older, I was raised in why be a nurse when you can be a doctor? Why be a paralegal when you can be an attorney? Everything was about money in my
Right.
dad's eyes. And now, as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh my God, I literally could. I love the simplistic. Like, I feel like I could definitely move to Etowah and be super happy and live on like my little farm and like live that life. Like, I think I could do
It's
that
so
now.
lit.
Yeah.
And that has changed though over time. I thought I wanted a lot more things. I thought I was a bougier person than I thought I was. Don't get me wrong, I like things,
Right.
but I could live more simplistically. And it's finding where you feel comfortable
Yeah.
in your simplistic level or non.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm big into the Marvel movies, and in Endgame, Thor is going to talk to his mom. He goes back in time, talks to his mom, and is talking about how he's a failure because he couldn't be who he was supposed to be. And she tells him that everyone fails at who they're supposed to be. The true measure of a person, of a hero, is how well you succeed at being who you are. And when I heard that, I was like, Yes,
This is what I
that
needed.
is
Wait,
absolutely.
run that back.
Everyone fails at who they're supposed to be. The true measure of a hero is how well you succeed at being who you really are.
That is freaking powerful.
So I love,
yeah.
comic book movies get a bad rap,
Yeah.
but there's
Good meaning.
a lot of legitimate good and stuff in there, I think.
The messages.
I think I just hated it because you were always watching that shit.
Well, I will say I always love even I feel like your Facebook posts always have these like crazy, like, I love them, like the cryptic, like good message behind them always the time. I will say I find them always like it piques my interest, definitely a conversation starter, and I feel like you do have so much, I don't know what I was saying earlier, I think the intellect, I think I was saying, I feel like you have
A lot of wisdom.
yeah, I feel like you speak with
Poppy
wisdom.
Shrulo.
I like to share profound thoughts. Typically, they're movie quotes or song lyrics or things that more creative people have said that I feel are appropriate, so I steal them. But then every once in a while, I come up with a profound original line, and then when that happens, I end up getting nominated to give eulogies.
Yeah, it's
So-
good. I think though the writing gene, I don't know about Kevin, but I know for sure like Ryan can write and he can write well, and it
right.
seems like you might also be a pretty decent writer, would you say?
I mean, yeah, I guess I don't write a whole lot. Honestly, I would like to be good at writing. I
You're
wouldn't
gifted.
I wouldn't mind writing the next Harry Potter series or the next Game of Thrones series or
Yeah.
something cool like that. But
Do it in your free time,
I-
J.K. Rowling style.
I haven't done nearly enough acid to come up with a universe like that yet. So
It's a whole
still
nother
time.
world. It's a good. My sister's also more on the loves that kind of stuff. And me and her are complete opposites as well. Like night
right,
and
yeah,
day.
it's but at the same time, you're probably very similar. Like
Yeah.
I was saying with me and Ryan, I feel like two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Essentially.
I feel like you're kind of like dad, and I'm kind of like mom, and Kevin's like in between. That's kind of
That's probably
for whatever reason. That's how it
inaccurate.
seems to me.
yeah. That's
Sort of.
at the basest level. That's
Yeah.
probably the simplest explanation I'd
Yeah.
say. But
Yeah, we carry our traits so differently from our
Yeah.
parents. There's times when I'm like, when I have my bad tempers, I'm like, I'm becoming my father. Like I can feel it like coming over me, and I'm like, no, I'm like, I should not be feeling this way. But yeah, our parents definitely have a big, big impact on that.
yeah, that's for sure. You know, they're the, for good or bad, your parents are the model that you have as an example of how humans are.
Yeah.
You know, really.
So, you know, ideally you do as good as you can, set as good an example as possible for your
Yeah.
kids on how they need to be as people. Not everyone is successful at that, which is unfortunate. But,
Yeah, because not everyone is so kind in this world either.
Yeah. I mean, we're extremely fortunate just to have, just have two parents in our lives, you know.
yeah, absolutely. You know, they did absolutely everything they could for us to provide us the best possible life growing up, and it probably wasn't as grateful as that as I should have been.
Yeah.
Not that I'd say I was ungrateful, but you know, you really don't understand until you have your own kids. And,
No,
yeah,
no. That's what mom always.
Mom used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
She would say that all the time, and I was like, okay, mom,
Sure, Mom.
whatever, whatever you say, mom. But it's absolutely true.
They have a lot more wisdom than us, and we
No.
forget that sometimes.
No.
At times they do. They've been on the planet longer. He's like, that doesn't mean everything.
No, they've got some wisdom
Yeah.
for sure.
But I guess we're going to wrap it up here. We do really super appreciate you coming on today. I think
Yes.
you have brought a lot of wisdom. I've been really, like I said before, you also are more like your dad. So when we would come down here on the holidays, I think we only got, you were very more to yourself and didn't want to go do the wild things my dad was always pressuring you boys to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times I feel like if I'm gonna say something, it needs to sound better than nothing, and to me, not much sounds better than nothing. So
Yeah.
if I'm gonna say something, it needs to have some substance and be valuable, as far as I'm concerned.
Makes sense. I'll say about anything.
Yeah, I was
at
about
any
to
point in
say,
time.
no filter. I probably overshare way too much in my life. Wait
what
till you're
it
like,
is.
please just shut up. I'm like, okay, my bad. But no, I think it was wonderful. Hopefully,
Yes.
we will continue growing our Wear Grippy Socks, and hopefully we'll have
That's
you back
right.
on.
That's right.
I'd love to
Yeah.
have the brothers on maybe one day.
The
That would
Wolf.
be.
I'd love to come back.
And will be super excited when we do have you back. Thank you once again. Thank
That's
you
right.
for being here.
Thank you, Shrew.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys out there for listening. Have
That's
a good
right.
day.
Gang, gang.
Bye.